Right in front of my father's study, the scent of cedar and old books hanging heavy in the air. Charles lounged on the leather couch, smirking like he already knew the outcome. The lawyer, Donald, cleared his throat and read the will. All shares of Aubrey Enterprises and estate holdings go to Charles Aubrey. I blinked. All. My name was only mentioned once, for a family heirloom watch. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. Charles started laughing. Guess you'll finally learn to earn your own way, little brother. I clenched my fists as the room spun. My father had built that empire with me by his side. Yet here I was, empty-handed. When Donald handed me a sealed envelope, from my father, I tore it open. Inside was a single note: build your own legacy, Michael. You'll understand why. Charles's laughter followed me out the door. But as I glanced down at my father's note, I noticed the signature. It wasn't his handwriting. The will wasn't just unfair. It was forged. I spent all night comparing the signature to the one on Dad's old documents. The difference was clear. My father's name had been faked. When I called the old family accountant, Mr. Williams, he refused to speak over the phone. You're not wrong, Michael. But there are people you shouldn't cross. Not yet. His voice trembled, and then he hung up. The next morning, Charles hosted a party at the mansion, celebrating new ownership. I wasn't invited, but I watched through social media posts. My brother was parading around my father's company like he'd earned it. Later that night, I received an anonymous text: if you want the truth, meet me at the old factory. Midnight. Come alone. I stared at the glowing screen, my heart pounding. I didn't know who it was, but I knew I'd go. Something told me this was my only chance at the truth. The factory was where Dad built his first machines. Now it smelled like rust and rain. I crept through the shadows until I saw her, a woman in a dark coat, face half hidden. Michael Aubrey? She asked. Your father trusted me once. Her name was Angela. She'd been Donald's secretary. She slid a flash drive into my hand. Your father's real assets, off the books. He hid them when Charles and Donald started manipulating him. My stomach dropped. Manipulating how? Angela looked away. Your father was sick. They pushed him to rewrite the will while he was on medication. Before I could ask more, the sound of tires screeched outside. 2 black SUVs. Charles's security team. Angela grabbed my arm, eyes wide with fear. Run, she whispered. I bolted through the back exit, heart hammering in my chest. Behind me, car doors slammed and voices shouted. I didn't look back. I barely escaped that night. I spent the next morning in a roadside motel, staring at my reflection. I wasn't just robbed. I was erased. When I opened the flash drive, I found something shocking. My father had quietly owned 40% of a tech company called ESA Systems. The founder? Eliana Sophia Aubrey. Not a stranger, but my father's secret business partner. He'd built something massive, something Charles didn't know about. I swore right then, if my brother took my inheritance, I'll build something greater. I'll make him kneel in front of what I create. I saved the files and backed them up 3 times. I wouldn't lose this. A search for Eliana Sophia led me to a newspaper clipping. Engineer missing after corporate sabotage. Suspect tied to Aubrey Enterprises. My blood ran cold. Charles had done something to her. And I was going to find out what. I tracked the article to a small coastal town. There, in a quiet cafe by the sea, a woman named Patricia recognized Eliana's name instantly. She's alive, Patricia said softly. But she doesn't use that name anymore. She's been hiding from your brother. She explained that Eliana had designed revolutionary AI software, something worth billions. But Charles had tried to steal her work before she disappeared. Patricia slipped me a business card. On the back were handwritten words, "If you're truly his son, meet me at dawn. I'll show you where the empire begins again." I looked up and saw a black car parked across the street, engine running. Someone had followed me. I grabbed my bag and slipped out the back door. The car stayed put, but I knew they were watching. I had to move fast. Dawn couldn't come soon enough. The ocean was still dark when I arrived at the old dock Patricia mentioned. The fog was thick, like the world didn't want to be seen. A figure stood at the edge of the pier, a woman in a hooded coat. When she turned, my chest tightened. It was Eliana Sophia Aubrey. She looked older than her photos, eyes tired but sharp. "You have your father's eyes," she said quietly. "I thought they'd destroy you too." Eliana revealed the truth. My father didn't just own 40% of her company. He co-founded it. Together, they had built ESA systems in secret to escape Charles's greed. "He planned for you to take over, Michael. But Charles found out." She handed me a small metal drive, encrypted. Inside is what's left of the company's core code. The world thinks it's lost. A gunshot cracked across the dock. The bullet hit the wood inches from my foot. We both froze. Eliana grabbed my hand. "Run." We darted through the fog toward an abandoned warehouse. Behind us, the black car's doors slammed. Charles's men again. Inside, Eliana smashed open a crate and pulled out an old server tower. "This holds the backup to ESA's first prototype. AI that can predict economic collapse before it happens." I barely understood, but I knew one thing. This tech was worth billions. We escaped through a side door just as the men burst in. I shoved the server into my backpack and sprinted toward the shoreline. When we reached Patricia's cafe, Eliana looked pale. "Michael, if I disappear again, promise me you'll finish what your father started." She slipped me a small flash card with a password scribbled on it. S.13, as she turned to leave, headlights blazed through the window. Eliana vanished into the night before I could stop her. Back in my motel room, I plugged the card into my laptop. One folder. One file. S.13, inside was a list of offshore accounts, property deeds, and a shocking name on multiple transfers. Donald, the lawyer who handled the will. But what froze me was a series of private emails. Donald had written to Charles, "She's gone. The father's last investment has been contained. The younger one suspects nothing." I slammed the laptop shut. Contained? Did that mean Eliana's disappearance wasn't voluntary? A knock hit the motel door. "Room service," a voice said. But I hadn't ordered anything. I crept toward the window and peeked through the curtain. Two men in suits stood outside. I reached for the door, and then I saw it. A thin line of red laser light sliding across the wall. They weren't here to talk. They were here to silence me. I dropped to the floor just as the window shattered. Two masked men burst in. They weren't here to rob me. They were looking for the drive. I fought one off, grabbed the server, and ran through the fire escape. The night was chaos. Screeching tires, shouting, smoke. I barely escaped through an alley and ended up hiding in a scrapyard. That's where I found Beatrice, a mechanic who worked there, covered in grease and attitude. When I showed her the server, she just whistled. "That's not junk, man. That's black market gold." She offered me a deal. She'd help decrypt it in exchange for half of whatever it led to. I hesitated, but I had no choice. I needed help. I agreed. But when she powered it up, a digital voice echoed from the machine, "Welcome back, Dr. Aubrey. System restoration in progress." The server knew my name. Beatrice and I stared at the glowing screen. A message appeared, a video file labeled, Final Protocol. When I opened it, my father's face filled the screen. He looked weak but calm. "If you're watching this, Michael, then I'm gone. And Charles has done what I feared. This system, ESA, can expose every shell company, every illegal account tied to Aubrey Enterprises. Protect it. Finish it. Then take back what's yours." My throat tightened. Dad had known everything. Beatrice leaned forward. "Michael, if this is real, your brother's empire is built on fraud." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. A message flashed, "You have something that belongs to me. Meet me tomorrow. Or I'll make you disappear like she did." It was signed with a single letter. See, Charles knew I was alive. And he was coming. The message from Charles haunted me all night. I didn't sleep. I just stared at the server, replaying my father's words. Beatrice wanted to leave town, but I couldn't. Instead, I sent Charles a reply. "If you want what's yours, come alone." At dawn, we met at a deserted parking structure downtown. Charles looked confident, too confident. He smiled that same cruel smile from the inheritance meeting. "You really thought you could outsmart me, little brother?" I noticed movement in the shadows. 3 of his men waiting to strike. I hit play on my phone, projecting Dad's video onto the wall. Charles froze. "He knew, didn't he?" I asked. "You forged the will. You ruined him." Charles's smirk faded for the first time. But before he could speak, his men lunged. I barely escaped through a maintenance door. As I ran, I heard Charles shout, "If he finds the other drive, we're done." There was another drive. Beatrice and I scoured through Dad's encrypted files all night. Hidden within was a set of GPS coordinates, pointing to a private storage unit outside the city. The unit belonged to Williams, our old accountant. When I confronted him, he nearly broke down. "Your father trusted me to hide the second drive," he confessed. "But after he died, Charles paid me to keep quiet." Williams handed me a steel box. Inside, a second flash drive labeled ESA Core, Phase 2. "Whatever's in there," Williams warned, "is what your father died protecting." As I plugged it into my laptop, a digital map appeared, showing the structure of Charles's company finances. Hundreds of offshore accounts. Fake charities. Political bribes. Then a notification popped up. Remote access detected. Someone was watching me. I yanked the cable, but it was too late. Charles had seen everything. I yanked the laptop's power cable, but it was too late. The screen flickered, and Charles's face appeared on a live feed. "You should have stayed poor, Michael," he said, smirking. "Now I'll take what's left of Father's legacy and bury you with it." The signal cut out. Moments later, the storage lights exploded. Charles's men were inside. Beatrice and I ran through the corridors, dodging bullets and shattering glass. When we reached the exit, Beatrice tripped, dropping the flash drive. I dove back, grabbed it, and got her to safety. But as we caught our breath behind an alley dumpster, she wouldn't look at me. "Michael," she whispered, voice trembling. "I didn't just find that factory by chance. I used to work for Charles." My heart stopped. Everything we'd done together, every moment of trust, crashed down around me. Beatrice had been part of his plan all along. I stared at Beatrice in disbelief. She didn't deny it. "He paid me to keep an eye on you," she said. "But I didn't know what he did to your father until I saw that video. I swear, Michael. I'm not on his side anymore." I wanted to walk away. But the truth in her eyes stopped me. She revealed that Charles had a hidden vault at the Aubrey Enterprises headquarters, containing the original will and the corporate bribe records. "If you want to destroy him, that's where you start," she said. I hesitated, torn between trust and revenge. But when I checked the ESA core again, a new folder had unlocked. A video titled S.13, Charles. I pressed play. My father's weak voice whispered, "If you're hearing this, then your brother has completed what he began. And you must do what I couldn't." The video showed surveillance footage of Charles standing beside my father's hospital bed the night he died. The video played grainy but clear. My father lay unconscious, hooked to machines. Charles stood beside him, whispering something to Donald. Then Charles reached over and disconnected the oxygen line. I couldn't breathe. My hands shook. Beatrice's eyes filled with tears. "He killed him, Michael." I rewound it 3 times, hoping I was wrong. I wasn't. Every piece of anger, grief, and humiliation I'd buried came roaring back. For the first time, revenge wasn't a plan. It was survival. I turned to Beatrice. "We're going after everything. The company, his money, his reputation. He'll lose it all." Beatrice nodded, silent but resolute. "Then we'll need allies," she said. "Someone who hates him more than we do." The next name on my father's encrypted contact list appeared. Eliana Sophia Aubrey. She was alive. And I was going to find her again. The drive kept flashing a name across the screen. Eliana Sophia Aubrey. Alive. Somewhere in the network. Beatrice ran diagnostics, but something strange happened. The AI inside the ESA core started responding to my voice. "Hello, Michael," it said. "Authorization accepted. Tracking co-founder, Eliana Sophia Aubrey." A digital map lit up, marking a location deep in the mountains at an old government lab. Beatrice stared at me. If she's there, she's either in hiding or being kept. That night, I decided. I was done running. Charles had taken my father, my future. But not my will to fight. We packed the drives, the data, and hit the road. As we drove through the mountain pass, my father's voice echoed again from the system. "If you reach her, tell her the company was never meant to destroy. It was meant to expose." We reached the abandoned lab before dawn. The air smelled of rust and silence. Beatrice picked the lock. Inside, rows of silent computers glowed dimly. And behind a glass wall, I saw her. Eliana. Alive. Weak, but alive. She looked up as I stepped forward. "Michael? You shouldn't have come. He's watching everything." Before I could speak, alarms wailed. Guards stormed the lab, not soldiers, but corporate security. We fought our way out. Eliana limping, Beatrice covering our escape. As we reached the exit, Eliana turned to me. "He doesn't just own companies, Michael. He owns people. Politicians. Systems. Your brother controls everything except this." She pointed to the drive in my hand. "That's his death sentence." My phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number: "You've made your choice. Now watch what it costs." It was signed C. Charles. The explosion came minutes later. Our car erupted into flames before we reached it. We dove for cover as the fire spread. Everything we had, the backups, the laptop, the server, was gone. Beatrice screamed in frustration, but Eliana stayed eerily calm. "He wants you desperate. He thinks you'll make mistakes when you have nothing left." We hiked down to the nearby town, covered in soot, exhaustion sinking in. I felt the old pain again, that helplessness from the inheritance day. But Eliana smiled faintly. "Your father didn't just trust technology. He trusted people. You still have that." She pulled out a small metallic chip from her necklace. "Backup fragment. He gave it to me before they locked me away." Beatrice decoded the chip and found a hidden name in the data logs. Angela Courtney. An insider working for Charles. We had our next target. We tracked Angela Courtney to one of Charles's charity galas, a glass tower glowing over the city. Beatrice forged us invitations. I walked in wearing a suit that still smelled faintly of smoke. Charles was there, confident, charming, surrounded by cameras. Angela worked as his senior finance executive. But her eyes gave her away. When she saw me, her expression froze. Later, in the restroom hallway, I cornered her. "You know who I am," I said quietly. "And you know what he did." She didn't deny it. Instead, she handed me a card key. "His private office. Tonight. But if he finds out I helped you, I'm dead." Beatrice watched from the surveillance feed as I sneaked into the top floor. Inside Charles's office, I found a safe. And in it, my father's original handwritten will. Signed. Undeniable. Everything Charles had was built on lies. As I lifted the will, I noticed a small black recorder taped beneath the safe's shelf. I pressed play. My father's voice. Then Charles's. "He'll never find out, right?" "Not unless he comes back from the grave," Charles laughed. The sound of a chair scraping. Then the oxygen line being pulled. Then silence. I broke. Every ounce of restraint, of grief, of patience, gone. But before I could take the recorder, alarms blared. Angela's voice came through the earpiece. "Michael, you need to leave now. He knows you're there." Beatrice and I ran through the hallway, guards in pursuit. As the elevator doors closed, I looked back one last time at the man who'd stolen everything. "You wanted war, Charles," I muttered. "Now you've got it." The elevator descended. And for the first time, I smiled. Because I wasn't running anymore. I was planning. We relocated to an abandoned power plant outside the city. Eliana turned the space into a makeshift command center, wires, screens, and servers blinking like stars in the dark. Using the ESA fragment, Beatrice traced Charles's corporate network. The deeper we dug, the uglier it got. Bribes to senators, illegal arms shipments disguised as humanitarian aid, offshore shell companies tied to stolen patents. But one name kept reappearing. Lisa Williams, Chief Financial Officer of Aubrey Enterprises. She was funneling millions into secret accounts linked to Charles personally. Eliana looked at me. "You expose this, and his empire collapses overnight." I nodded. "Then let's start the countdown." As we prepared the first leak, a message appeared on Beatrice's monitor from an unknown sender. "Stop now, Michael. Lisa isn't his pawn. She's his wife." My blood ran cold. I froze. Lisa, my brother's wife. He'd kept it from the world, from investors, even from our family. Eliana confirmed it through company records. She'd changed her name secretly after the wedding. It wasn't love. It was strategy. Lisa was the one who handled every major deal for Charles, shielding him from blame. "She's the real power," Beatrice whispered. "Take her down, and the company folds." That night, I reached out to Lisa anonymously through encrypted email, pretending to be an investor. She replied in minutes, "Meet me tomorrow. Midnight." No names. We met at an upscale hotel lounge, both masked in words and intentions. Her voice was calm, too calm. "You're not who you say you are you?" she said softly. "You sound just like him." She slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a photo of my father and Lisa together. She wasn't just Charles's wife. She had been my father's assistant before he died. Lisa's eyes never wavered. "Your father trusted me. He didn't know Charles was using me to watch him." She told me the truth. She discovered Charles's murder the night it happened. He forced her silence by threatening her sister's life. "I've kept evidence for years," she whispered. Hidden. Waiting for someone brave enough to use it. She handed me a key to a locker at Central Station. Take it before he finds out. After that, I'm gone. Before I could ask anything else, she stood and walked out. Moments later, the bar window shattered. A sniper shot. I ducked, heart pounding, but Lisa was gone. All that remained was the key and a trail of blood near the exit. A message flashed on my phone seconds later from Charles. You shouldn't have met her, little brother. She was mine to silence. I found the locker beneath the roar of Central Station. Inside, a black folder, a flash drive, and a single note in Lisa's handwriting. For Michael. Trust no one. The flash drive contained dozens of recordings. Boardroom deals, secret meetings, bribes, all linking back to Charles. But the last file made my blood run cold. A surveillance video dated 2 months after my father's death, showing Charles meeting Donald, the lawyer who executed the will. Donald handed him a check. $15 million. Payment for forging legal documents. I slammed my fist against the locker door, fury rising again. Donald had been with us since childhood. As I left the station, someone grabbed my shoulder. I turned and stared straight into Donald's terrified eyes. Michael, he whispered, shaking. He knows everything. And you're next. I pulled him into the shadows. We needed to talk. We sat inside a deserted cafe, lights dimmed. Donald's hands trembled as he spoke. He made me do it. He said if I didn't rewrite the will, he'd ruin me. Or worse. I leaned forward. And my father? Donald swallowed hard. He didn't just die that night. Charles made sure the hospital deleted the footage. I helped file the fake records. Every word twisted like a knife. I wanted to hit him. But he was the only one who could prove the truth. If I help you, he said, I need protection. I have something he doesn't know I kept. He reached into his briefcase and slid out a document, an old deed to a company no one recognized. Aubrey Technologies Limited. The signature at the bottom made my heart stop. Co-founders, Eliana Sophia Aubrey and Michael Aubrey. I looked at Eliana in disbelief. She smiled faintly. I told you the company wasn't meant to destroy, Michael. It was meant for you. The moment I saw my name on that deed, something inside me changed. For the first time, I wasn't reacting. I was in control. Aubrey Technologies was legally mine. My father had built it as a hidden branch, the skeleton key to his entire network. Eliana explained that every system inside Charles's company ran on our patents. You own the veins of his empire, she said. Cut the flow, and he bleeds. Beatrice set up a covert program inside Aubrey Enterprises servers. Slowly, the numbers began to shift. Accounts freezing, transactions reversing, investors panicking. I watched it unfold, a quiet smile on my face. That night, a news alert flashed on TV. Aubrey Enterprises loses $3 billion overnight due to system error. Charles's face appeared next, eyes dark with rage. Find him, he told the press. Find my brother. I turned off the TV. The war had begun. The next morning, Eliana received an encrypted message, a distress code only my father and one other person knew. From Patricia. My half-sister. The one who disappeared years ago after my father's funeral. We followed the trail to an old coastal safe house. Inside, Patricia was waiting, frightened but determined. He's not just losing money, Michael. He's losing control. And when Charles loses control, people die. She revealed that Charles had hired a private strike team, Black Helix, to track us down and recover the drives. He thinks if he destroys you, the investors will stay, she said. As she spoke, the windows shattered. Gunfire tore through the room. Beatrice pulled Patricia down as I grabbed the flash drive and dived behind a couch. When the smoke cleared, Patricia was gone. Dragged away through the shattered doorway. I screamed her name, but she was already gone. Hours later, a message arrived. A live feed. Patricia bound to a chair in a warehouse. Charles's voice filled the speakers. You win, Michael. You want her back. Bring me the drives. Alone. I stared at the screen. I'd been ready for war, not this. Beatrice tried to stop me. He's baiting you. I know, I said. But he took everything once. He won't take her. That night, I went, wearing a wire, a backup plan hidden under my sleeve. Charles stood beside Patricia, calm as ever. You think you're smarter than me, he sneered. You're still the boy begging for scraps. I threw the drive toward him. He caught it and smiled. Behind me, a sniper laser lit my chest. Then, a gunshot. But it wasn't aimed at me. It hit Charles's shoulder. From the rafters, Eliana. She'd followed me. She'd never trusted Charles to keep his word. Chaos exploded. Gunfire echoed through the warehouse. Charles's men fell one by one as Eliana and Beatrice fought back. I ran to Patricia, cutting her free. Charles, bleeding but alive, stared at me. You'll never win, Michael. You're fighting a ghost built by power and fear. He pulled a gun. But before he could fire, Patricia stepped between us. You already took father. You're not taking him too. A shot rang out. Charles's hand jerked. Patricia gasped. Then silence. I caught her as she fell, her blood soaking my shirt. Her eyes met mine for the last time. Finish it. Make him see what he's done. I held her as she died. And I looked up at Charles. I swore to end him not with death, but with ruin. He would lose everything, just like I had. But he would live to watch it happen. Patricia's death made me colder, sharper. No mercy left. Only purpose. Eliana helped me activate the final phase of ESA, a public data drop scheduled to release at dawn. Every document, every bribe, every crime Charles committed, sent to the media, the government, the world. As the clock hit 0, screens across the city lit up. Aubrey Enterprises fraud scandal, global collapse imminent. Stock prices plummeted. Board members resigned live on air. Charles tried to flee, but his accounts were frozen. Everything he'd stolen was now mine. That evening, I stood outside the corporate tower as police led him out in handcuffs. He saw me. And for the first time, he didn't laugh. You did this, he hissed. No, I said. You did. As the cameras flashed, a black car rolled to the curb. Inside sat Lisa, alive, wearing sunglasses. She nodded once, smiling faintly. Round one's over, she said. Ready for round two? Charles was in custody, but the city didn't feel free. Too many threads still moved in the shadows. And Lisa was at the center of them. When she showed up that night, she looked calm, powerful, untouchable. You've destroyed him, she said. Now let's talk about owning what's left. She revealed the truth. She hadn't helped me out of guilt. She'd helped me because she wanted control of ESA. Your father built it to expose corruption, she said. I can use it to control corruption. Eliana stepped forward. You'd become what he hated. Lisa smiled faintly. Maybe that's what the world needs now. She slid a folder toward me. Inside was a merger contract. If I signed, we'd be partners. If I refused, she'd release the one secret left untold. How my father really died. I stared at the contract. And I realized I had one more choice to make. I didn't believe her until she played the tape. The footage wasn't from the hospital. It was from the night before. My father sat in his study, hands trembling. "Charles thinks he's killing me," he said softly into the camera. "But it's not the illness. It's the deal I made." Then Lisa appeared beside him, younger, crying. "He made me sign the documents, sir. If they find out." "No one must know, Lisa," he interrupted. "If Charles destroys me, maybe he'll learn what power costs." He looked directly into the camera. "Michael, if you ever see this, remember. Revenge is easy. Redemption is harder." I froze. My father chose his own death. To teach Charles a lesson. To teach me a lesson. Lisa whispered, "Now you know the truth. So, what kind of man are you going to be? Him, or your brother?" I looked at the contract. And I tore it in half. For the first time since it began, I didn't know who the villain was anymore. Charles had killed to win. Lisa had manipulated to survive. And my father had died to teach me restraint. Eliana wanted to destroy Lisa completely. "She's the last snake in this nest." Beatrice disagreed. "If we go that far, we're no better than them." I stared out over the city, my city now. Every tower, every light, every shadow built on our name. Was I ready to be the man who owned all that? Or the man who freed it? That night, I sent Lisa a single message: "Meet me at the tower tomorrow. Alone." As the message sent, my servers detected something strange. A new code running through ESA. It wasn't ours. It was Lisa's. She'd been planning this from the start. I looked at Eliana and Beatrice. "We end this tomorrow. One way or another." Lisa arrived at dawn, heels clicking against the marble floors of the tower I now owned. "You could have ruled beside me," she said. "Instead, you want to play hero." I smiled faintly. "You never understood. This wasn't about ruling. It was about ending what we became." As we spoke, the lights flickered. The system she'd injected began to unravel, her virus eating through the network. But I'd seen it coming. "You built your code off my father's structure," I said quietly. "You forgot who wrote the foundation." I entered the last command. ESA went silent. And then, one by one, every server began to broadcast live. The world was watching. Lisa's confession, her manipulation, her crimes, every word streamed publicly. She tried to destroy the system, but ESA locked her out permanently. As guards rushed in, Lisa whispered to me, "You'll regret saving them. Power always comes back hungry." I watched her leave. And I knew she was right. Weeks passed. Charles was sentenced. Lisa vanished into obscurity. The world called me a genius, the man who took down his corrupt brother and rebuilt a billion-dollar empire from ashes. But I didn't feel victorious. At night, I still heard my father's voice: "Redemption is harder." Eliana and Beatrice stayed by my side as we rebuilt ESA, not as a weapon, but as a system that exposed global corruption anonymously. A new kind of justice. On the day I reopened the company under its true name, Aubrey Technologies, reporters flooded the lobby. One of them asked, "Mr. Aubrey, what do you say to your brother now that he's lost everything?" I looked straight into the camera. I didn't take his empire. I took back my father's dream. And for the first time in years, I smiled. Not out of revenge. Out of peace. He laughed when he took my inheritance. But in the end, he taught me something. The only victory that matters is becoming everything they said you couldn't be. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments.